Welcome, dear listeners, to another inspiring episode of Enduring to the End, the podcast where we delve into the remarkable stories of individuals whose lives have been deeply shaped by their faith. I'm your host, Patricia, and today we have the privilege of hearing from Esther, a woman whose unwavering commitment to Christianity spans an incredible 6 decades. So thanks, Esther, for your time today, and would love to hear your story and how God has been working in your life. So if you don't mind, can we start with how old are you?
I'm 65.
65 and feeling alive? So what was your religious background? How did you grow up?
My parents were Wesleyan. My father was a Wesleyan Methodist minister, so I was brought up for many years in the Wesleyan Church, and in later years I went to the Church of Christ, and I was also in the AOG churches as well, so had a Pentecostal background as well. So,
And so have you always had a Christian background?
yes, definitely.
Okay. And when did you become a Christian yourself?
Well, that's an interesting question, because I can't really remember a time when I didn't ever love the Lord. Being brought up in that environment, you know, it was so much part of your life. I do remember making, and there were always, in the olden days, there were always altar calls, and there was always that type of services. So often I would, in myself, you know, say yes, Lord, you know. And then when I became, I think I was very early teenager, someone said to me, "Oh, have you made a decision for Christ?" And I said, "Yes," and they wanted to know when, and I said, "Well, I can't really tell you exactly." And they said, "Well, perhaps you haven't really made that decision for yourself." So I guess over the years there's been a few recommitments to the Lord as well, so yeah.
Okay. So after having a few people ask, are you a Christian now? Are you a Christian now? And then not being sure at the time, do you feel you've come to a place in your faith where you know without a doubt that, yes, I believe in Jesus Christ and yes, He is my Lord and Saviour?
Definitely, yeah. I know that I am a Christian. I've asked Christ into my life, and so, you know, He says that if we do that, and we believe in Him, that we are. So yeah.
And how long would you say you've been a Christian?
You know, maybe 60 years, I'd say. I don't know. As I said, I've, you know, loved the Lord for most of my life, so yeah.
So does being a Christian mean that you need to do anything to show other people you're a Christian, or do you think it's a personal walk with the Lord?
A bit of both. It's a personal choice. I think everybody has to make that choice for themselves. The fact that I had Christian parents didn't make me a Christian. I had to make that choice for myself. But I also think if you're living the Christian life, or wanting to emulate Christ, then you tend to want to do things that are pleasing and honouring to Him. And you know, when you sort of start to know the sort of things that He did, like loving people that, you know, are unlovable and things like that, you try to emulate the things that Christ was doing.
Do you feel that you were given the choice of being a Christian since you were raised in a Christian family?
Definitely given a choice. There was an expectation, I guess, that you would become a Christian. You would seek that for yourself, but it was just part of the way things were. You know, you were brought up in the Christian faith, and we prayed from very, since we were little children. We always prayed, and we were brought up in that way. And I think that's a really hard thing these days, because the way I look at it is, if people say, "Oh, I'm going to wait until my children are a certain age and then they can make up their own mind." And yes, they need to make up their own mind, but if they've never been instructed in the ways of the Lord, they can't turn back to something that they've never known. For me, it was being brought up in that way, and then I still had to sort out my own faith and beliefs in it, but it was something that I found a lot easier to come into, because I'd been instructed in that way before.
So along your journey, have you had any moments of doubt where you just think, I don't know if I can believe this anymore, or God just hasn't been there for me the way I thought Christianity was supposed to be?
I've always believed in God. I never doubted the fact that there was a God, or that He loved me. I guess I've sometimes doubted whether I've been on the right track, and sometimes I felt more distanced from God. He's never really moved away from me, but I've kind of sometimes moved away from Him a little bit. So, yeah.
For people who feel distant or not close to God at the moment, do you have any advice or encouragement for them?
One of the big things would be just really to hang in there, and just to talk to God, talk to Jesus like He's your friend. Often we have this feeling that He's so majestic, which He is, but that we can't talk to Him as a friend, and when we have a friend, a close friend, we can tell our friend anything. We can say that we're feeling discouraged, or we're not happy, or whatever, and I think that's the important thing, is to be true, not to be always saying, yes, life's rosy and I'm feeling great, when often you're not feeling great, and He knows all of those things. But I think you need to really be honest with Him and to tell Him how you're feeling. Yeah.
Did your faith help you through the difficult times in your life?
I think hardships are times when you often draw closer to the Lord. Still, as I said, you can still question why, but I think, definitely think that it made me closer to the Lord.
So what has your daily walk with Christ look like over time, and what does it look like now?
Oh, in respects of how I talk to the Lord all the time. That's something that I do as a given. I don't have I'm not a very formal sort of person, so I wouldn't say that I have a formal set time where I will, talk to the Lord. I'm talking to Him constantly. As things come up through the day, or as I feel things, I'll be talking to Him about these things. And Bible readings, in the past I've been more formal about the Bible readings and read large passages, or read the Bible in a year and things like that, which is fantastic. But these days I don't tend to do quite so much. I read every day, at least one verse or two a day. I guess it's not, these days it's not quite so formal as it used to be.
So do you think those changes have been just as you've matured in your faith, whereas previously maybe it was more religious, that you had to do these things, and now it's just become that relationship?
I think so. I think that has become more a natural relationship. I think in the start, you're feeding yourself, and so you're reading, so you know that. But and I'm not saying don't read God's word by any means, but once you have read God's word, you've got that imparted in you anyway, and the Lord can recall those sort of things to you. But it is great to be reading passages and I love reading the stories, especially in the work I'm in with the children. Reading the Bible stories and hearing it again, and I find that I get a lot out of them as well as the children do. So it's really it's good.
Are there any scriptures or passages that you've memorized to encourage yourself in your walk with Christ?
Well, in the past I've learned quite a few. These days I'm not so good at memorising things, but of course the one that is the standout probably for a lot of people is John 3:16, and that's the one, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, and that's one that I hold on to, that he loved us so much that he would give his Son for us, and as a parent, as I've become a parent and a mother myself, I think, what a sacrifice that would be. I've had to think about really long and hard, could I give that sacrifice? Could I give up my child? And it just blows my mind when I think about that sacrifice. Yeah.
Have you been discipled in your journey?
Yes, yeah. In the early days, of course, I was, went to Sunday school and then youth group, and and then later years, I had Christian friends that would come alongside me, older people that were mentors. I think that's sometimes it's really great to have someone who's been there and walked the walk for quite a while, and that can come alongside you and just advise you about things and help you about things. You've still got to find your own way, and you've got to work through things yourself, but sometimes it's good to have those people walk alongside you.
Would you be able to share any moments where you can say that, yes, that was God working in my life?
It's probably been quite a few times. Sometimes I've wondered what God was doing. Not doubted that God was in the situation, but what God was doing. But moving up here was one that was a bit like that. It was I'd been in a job for 20-something years, and I felt the Lord saying, you need to leave your job and come up here and be with your parents. And it was, and so that was something that I did do eventually. But I felt that was, when I got up here, it was the right thing, because everything sort of tended to fall in place. It was, if I moved up here, I needed a job, and the next thing, a job was provided. I went for an interview for a job I didn't think I'd get, because I really hadn't had an experience in that field, and I got the job, and I was able to move up here, and it was, it was, it was just a time when that was what was needed. My father was needing care and stuff like that, so I was there. I was able to be there for him. So, and there's been other times as well, but yeah.
So with your move up here, did you know that was God speaking to you at the time?
Yes, definitely he was speaking to me at that time.
And did you expect to find a husband as you moved up here?
No, definitely not. I didn't. In fact, I did say to my husband that I was that I was not after a relationship. I'd been on my own for over 15 years, and everything was fine the way it was. I was looking for a friend more than anything, and I got a friend, but I also got a bonus of a husband as well. So, yeah.
So just to change topics a bit, I want to move on to the subject of death and how people as Christians, as believers, view death versus how the world will see that topic.
I've seen a lot of death. I was a nurse as well, so I've been around people that have been dying. For me personally, I don't have any fear of death as such, or what happens after death. It's more about, I think, there's a bit of apprehension about the way I'm going to die, but actually death itself, I don't have any fear about death, because I've got a real faith, and I know where I'm going to go after I die. So.
Yeah. So being a nurse, did you notice the way people died change between people that you knew were believers versus people that you knew were not?
Definitely, yes. There were some people that were so fearful of dying. You could see the fear, in them. They were fighting the whole time. There wasn't that peace. They didn't have a peace. Whereas others that you knew were Christians and had a Christian faith, there was this peace that came, upon them, and they just were, they were ready to go home to be with the Lord. Yeah.
Do you believe in the power of prayer?
Definitely believe in the power of prayer. Again, as I said, we don't always get answers the way we think it should be answered, but God knows the big picture, and He wants the best for us, and so He works everything around. And sometimes it might be a bit of a roundabout route to get where we need to be, or to get the answers that we need. But definitely.
And do you have any encouragement or advice for young believers, for young people coming to the faith?
Look, I just say, just keep trusting in the Lord. Just keep going. Things will get tough. We're not promised an easy ride in life, but He's always there for you, and He will be there, even though sometimes you feel distanced from Him. But He's always there, and He's always willing to listen. And sometimes we don't get the answers the way we expect the answers, and that can sometimes throw us off too. We can sort of get off kilter a bit, because it hasn't gone the way we thought it's going to go. But He's still there, and just to keep persevering. And
by being raised a Christian and being a Christian for your majority of your life, do you feel that has protected you from disappointments or hardships?
Definitely had hardships. I went through, a marriage breakup, and I couldn't understand why at the time. It didn't. I was a Christian. I thought, and my faith was that when you were married, you remained married, and that was the way it was. So I guess in some ways it shook my faith, but it, and asking and seeking the Lord's, guidance and why things happen. I think we can ask why. When things get hard, we can ask the Lord, why has this happened? And He's okay with us asking. He doesn't. And in the end, I came to the realisation, whether it be a voice or but I feel it was the Lord saying to me, well, everybody has their choice, and if both partners are not willing to continue and want the same things, then there is this this difference, and things tend to fall apart.
And how important do you think fellowship with other believers is in a Christian's daily walk?
I think fellowship's very important, and that was part of what my issue was, that I was not in fellowship at that stage, and what form fellowship takes is quite different. It could be going to church, or just being in a home group, or just having a Christian friend that you can just spend time with, and just encourage each other in your faith. Yeah.
So do you have any last remarks or things you'd like to say to those who are wanting that long-term commitment with Christ?
Just one thing that I did learn, there was a time when as I said, I've always believed and loved the Lord, but there was a time when I wasn't so close to Him, and I got like this, I don't know whether you call it an analogy or whatever it is, but it was of like a river, and if you go into a river and you just are floating, you can't stay in that one position, you can't stay where you are, because the current will take you downstream. So it's, for me, that was like, even though I love the Lord and I'm a Christian, and unless I'm actively doing something and seeking Him and doing things like that, then I am going to start to drift backwards. And so that was a real eye-opener to me, to realise that I actively have to, talk to Him, and whether that's read His Word, or even get a mentor, have someone come alongside you that can help to build you up in your faith. And so I'd suggest that people do those things, just so that they, because you can't stay still, you can't just stop still, it doesn't work.
So thanks so much for your time today, Esther. I really appreciate you sharing your walk with Christ with us and how it's changed over the years. And thank you for sharing what life looks like now as a mature believer, as someone who has been faithful and been walking with Christ for over 60 years. We really appreciate your time, and may the Lord bless you. Esther's story is not just a tale of years lived in faith, but a testament to the transformative power of a dynamic relationship with God. For 60 years, she has walked the path of a Christian, and her life serves as a living testament to the profound impact that faith can have on an individual. Esther's journey took a pivotal turn when she realized that her faith was not meant to be a stationary journey, and instead it called her to follow in the footsteps of Christ, to embrace growth, and to navigate the ever-evolving landscape of being a believer.